It is a first down. Pirates.
You can paint this with purple. What an incredible win by the ECU Pirates.
Welcome into Blackbeard's Alley, a Pirate football podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe. East Carolina getting ready to host the BYU Cougars Saturday night, 7:30 at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. The game will be broadcast on ESPN2 nationally. And right now, to preview that matchup, very excited to be joined by the Director of Broadcast Media and the 25th year play-by-play voice of BYU, and that is Greg Wrubell. Greg, we appreciate your time.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Greg, over the last several years, Kalani Sitake and his staff have really had things rolling there in Provo. And looking at Kalani Sitake's bio, is not only is he the head football coach, he's also the senior associate AD. That's pretty unusual.
Yeah, they made a number of administrative changes this last offseason, and we have two head coaches in the program that have now taken on AD roles. The women's track and cross country head coach also has the same title. So, yeah, new AD means new administration and a bunch of new people in new places, and just kind of elevating Kalani to more of a decision making posture, and certainly he's certainly a great voice to have in any room like that.
And Kalani's in his 10th year as the head coach. The program's made the move to the Big 12 over the last few seasons. And with that being the case, certainly on an upward trajectory, winning 70+% of his games over the last 5 years. What's the general consensus and so forth on the Sitake era?
Well, it's been a success. And I think if he were to have a Lavelle Edwards-like tenure, Cougar Nation would be happy. Kalani played for Lavelle. Kalani's last game as a player was Lavelle's last game as a head coach. So there's that tie, that natural tie. And Kalani has a lot of the qualities that made Lavelle beloved by his players and the media and everyone else. And he's a very genuine, affable, friendly, funny man. He's a hugger. Kalani is. He's somebody that people like to just be around. It's funny at the Big 12 Media Days this past summer in Frisco, Texas. Most of the coaches just want to kind of shake hands as they pass each other. What's up? And then but it seemed like everybody wanted to stop, get a hug, and hang out and chat with Kalani, spend some time with Kalani. And that's a little different, I think. But he gives you that vibe. And again, he's had tremendous success. He got BYU through the tail end of the independence era, got BYU into the Big 12 era. And I think everybody wishes that Kalani will stay a long time winning in the kind of games that he's been winning already at a high clip and keep this thing going.
And Greg, before I pitch you to Jason, that's something that we as East Carolina fans can relate to, because of about a decade ago, you recall Ruff and McNeil. He was the coach of the Pirates on that 2015 game, and Coach Ruff was all about, quote, hugging them up, as he said.
Well, that's very much a part of Kalani's makeup. That's kind of who he is, and I think it's just a great part of his persona.
Greg, one thing I'm curious about is, since you made the move to the Big 12, which we're all obviously envious of, as well as some of our former American Conference mates in Cincinnati, et cetera, have you seen that change a little bit of the footprint of the recruiting for BYU and Kalani, or is it more or less staying the same as it has in the past? Because you've always had success. You mentioned Lavelle Edwards, and just joining the proverbial Power Four conference that ESPN tags everybody to. Have you seen that change at all? The type of recruit you're going after, or you're going into different areas of the country maybe you didn't spend as much time in before?
Two-pronged answer here, and I'll handle the second part first. The second part is the new era of NIL, along with the Power Conference membership, expands the net. I think. I think it allows you to go more places maybe you didn't go before. And so that's been one noticeable change. The resources part of it. And that's clearly a factor. But the first half of your question's answered this way. It really hasn't changed who they've gone after, but it has increased the number of wins they get with those recruits, if that makes sense. Because when they weren't Power 4 or Power 5 then, they were losing out to P5 schools. They just were. A lot of kids who have loved to come to BYU, love Kalani, maybe say they grew up in the church that sponsors BYU, but the appeal of going to a power conference held some sway with those kids, and you can't blame them for it. It was a battle BYU had to fight. Now that they're on level footing with those competitors, they don't lose because of that anymore. That's been the biggest change, is you're not losing recruiting battles to P5 or P4 non-P4 designations that you might have before. But then beyond all of that, the way the era is now, you can almost go anywhere for the right fit. BYU's never going to want to lose its fit. They never want to go outside the fit, right? There's an honor code. You have to want to play here and live the standards. So there's that too. You're never going to go outside that fit. But if they fit and you've got the resources and you can say we're P4, you're right in the game with anybody you want to be.
That's fantastic for you guys. I've always watched BYU from afar and actually had some connections. Kind of a token piece of information here. I actually played football at Appalachian State before going to East Carolina, and one of my best friends that I met my freshman year, he wound up being the Cougar mascot at BYU for a few years. So it's kind of interesting.
He was a Cosmo.
Yes, he was. He was,
All
and he was a
right.
character too. I can tell you what, he fit Cosmo well. So
Yeah, I get it.
I've always pulled for you guys, in a lot of the games, and enjoyed just watching BYU play, because sometimes it's 10:30 at night here, and we get cut on a brand new live football game on TV. So
yeah.
Down through the years, Greg, and when I think of BYU, I think of course, Lavelle Edwards, but so many excellent quarterbacks, guys like Steve Young, Ty Detmer, Jim McMahon, to name a few, and high-powered offenses. And we'll definitely talk about the offense in a moment because it's been solid thus far, under freshman quarterback Bear Bachmeier. But let's talk about this defense because no matter who the Cougars have played thus far, and they've played Portland State and Stanford, allowing 1.5 points a game, 99 yards, and 7 rushing yards per game, certainly eye-catching.
Yeah, the defensive numbers, they're attention grabbing. The one thing I thought was interesting was watching Stanford's game on the weekend, because with Portland State, I mean, that's not a very good FCS program, and so you beat them 69-0, but you kind of did exactly what you're supposed to do. And they held Portland State to minus yards rushing that day. But then Stanford came along, and BYU held Stanford to 19 yards rushing. And Stanford had just run for about $180 at Hawaii. Then they ran for 200 plus against Boston College. So they actually have shown outside of BYU that they can run the ball. They were averaging 4+ yards per carry at Hawaii, almost 6 yards a carry against Boston College, and then they're under a yard per carry against BYU. So it's an early measuring point, but I wanted to see how Stanford looked on the weekend, and that gave me somewhat of an answer to what BYU might be. It's a legit rush defense. Colorado was held to a very, very low number in the Alamo Bowl at the end of last season. The team before that would have been Arizona State, Kansas. They've been low rushing numbers as well, the Kansas especially. So I think we're seeing that this is a legit scheme. The numbers look real in terms of rush defense. The ironic thing is it may not matter that much against ECU. ECU likes to run it to keep teams honest and have some variety, but they want to throw it a ton. And so BYU's not been tested at all like they're going to be tested by ECU on Saturday. So the rush defense will certainly help things, but ECU's already shown that they don't need to run it a ton to move the ball and score points. So a new, unique, interesting challenge for Jay Hill and the BYU defense this week.
Well, one good thing is I don't believe it's going to be as humid as it is typically this time of the year here in North Carolina. So that gives you guys a little bit of a break there. I was hoping the big guys would get tired up front, but
we'll take all the breaks we can get.
I don't believe the weather's cooperating with us this time around. But would you attest that just to having a lot of leadership up front in your front seven of the defense, or is there I'm looking at some of the stats here. Your defensive ends leading the team in tackles and linebackers. I mean, which is typical. But I know Coach Harrell really praised those guys in his presser earlier, and he doesn't really, he's not somebody who's going to spread peanut butter or does not need to be spread. He's very honest and very upfront and very transparent, and you can tell that he just has a lot of respect for that defense. So, is it the front, is it the back end, or just the combination of both?
BYU lost basically its front four from last year. So the guys you're seeing now are new guys to BYU, but they're good new guys. And one of them is a Utah transfer, Keanu Tanavasa. He'll soon be joined by an Oklahoma State transfer, Justin Kirkland. Those will be your two inside guys once Justin gets back. And he's close to getting back. Maybe not this week, but maybe. And he's a big guy. They haven't been able to play yet. But when he gets back, it's good news for BYU. I think they need to be a little better on the edges in terms of getting push and getting into the backfield, and the sacks and TFL's number, which was not great last year, is already up a little bit, which is good. So the front four is going to be good. The strength will be in the linebackers right behind those guys, though. And I'm going to mention two. It generally you're going to see 3-4. You're going to see nickel, but rather you're going to see 4-3. You're going to see nickel. So we're talking about three backers generally, but the two on the outside, Isaiah Glasgow and Jack Kelly, they make that thing go. The middle right now is probably Siale Acera, but that'll rotate. But they really count on Kelly and Glasgow to be the difference makers on the outside at linebacker. Glasgow is longer, more of a dynamic playmaker. Kelly is maybe stouter, stronger, but still really fast for the size. They're two really unique talents, and I think they could both be Big 12, all Big 12 linebackers by the end of the season. And the secondary is good enough to do things that BYU, I think, has to do to compete with and beat Big 12 teams. It's a good enough secondary. If they stay healthy, they like their first 5, 6, 7 guys in that group right now. And, at this level, whether it was BYU playing in the old conferences or in the independence level, it was always about depth when you played the power conference programs. And now BYU is one of them. They have to develop that same depth, and it's coming along. They're getting to a point where you can go, okay, that looks more like power conference depth.
Shifting over and take a look at the offense. I mentioned how the offense has obviously been productive thus far. You have Bear Bachmeyer coming over from Stanford, his brother. Tiger is also on the team doing some nice things in the return game, for one. But Bear, wears that typical quarterback number of 47, and he's 24-38, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 6'2", 220. I know Coach Harrell in his weekly press conference today was very impressed by Bear and the way he runs the football.
Yeah, he's run for 3 scores as well. And something Coach brought up was that, Bear maybe to this point hasn't had to be, or do a lot at this point. Coach's comments was, let's make him be a quarterback, right? Which means, getting to multiple reads, maybe throwing on the run, going downfield. We haven't seen Bear have to do a lot, but I think he can do a lot. It's just been a situation where you had 2 games well in hand. The run game was going, they were going to be okay doing what they were doing. But I think they're confident in Bear's ability to throw the football. But it'll be interesting to see, with each challenge, just how much he's ready to do week to week. As for the number 47, yeah, he, back in the day when it was a two-way guy, he was like a running back and a linebacker. The 47 is kind of a linebacker number. And he said when he was made a quarterback, he wanted to keep that linebacker mentality when he crossed the line of scrimmage. And so he kept the 47. So that's an important number to him. It kind of speaks to his mentality, which I think you like out of your quarterback. He wants a linebacker number, so that's pretty cool in and of itself. But yeah, he looks the part for a young guy, 6'3", 220. That's a pretty good quarterback build as a true freshman. So the signs have been encouraging. He can run it. He can take a hit. He spins a good ball. He really does have a nice arm. He just hasn't had to light it up yet. But again, I think part of that's a function of the fact they won 69-0 and 27-3 with games that were really kind of, in control the entire way. Let's see what happens when, BYU finds itself in a shootout, and that could be Saturday. I mean, ECU has all the signs of going back and forth with BYU in this one.
At running back, you have L.J. Martin, 26 carries, 241 yards, averaging nearly 9.5 per carry with a long of 49. And then out at wide receiver, Coach Harrell remembered Chase Roberts. He said he was there as part of that 22 team. And then you have Carson Ryan, 5 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Now, tell us about those guys as well as any other skill position players that ECU fans should keep an eye on this weekend.
Well, those are the right guys. That's your big three, right? You've got a wide receiver, a tight end, and a running back. And that's where this thing, I think any team that's really going well, I think they've got to have stars at those 3 spots. And then you add quarterback to it. I think BYU's best teams have been where they've had the highlight maker at quarterback, a go-to wideout, a very reliable tight end, and a bell cow. Too many committees, it's hard to be a great team when it's just too many guys doing too many. I think you need superstar players to have special seasons. That means, a 3,000-yard quarterback, a 1,000-yard receiver, a 1,000-yard rusher. I think BYU's got those kinds of guys they can key on this year. Having said that, Chase Roberts is the go-to guy at wide receiver, a guy that could have maybe thought about going pro after last year, came back for another year, and he'll be the primary target almost certainly by the end of the season. But Carson Ryan, the UCLA/Utah transfer, could be right there behind Chase in terms of targets. Carson's a pretty special player, I think, and I'll be surprised if he doesn't see increased targets as the season goes along. He's already scored for BYU this year. And then at running back, L.J. Martin, yes, you mentioned the yards per carry average. What jumps out at me, you mentioned his long runs 49. Last year, so for 13 games, he had a long run of 39, 3-9 over 30. He already has a 43, a 44 to 49 in 2 games. Granted, caliber of opposition, okay, but he's breaking stuff that he wasn't breaking last year. And so that's a really encouraging sign for me. I think he's a 1,000-yard runner if he just stays healthy. Coming into this year, he had 2 100-yard games in 2 seasons. Well, he has 100-yard games in each of his first 2 games of this season. He's showing signs this could be a big year for L.J. Martin.
Well, Greg, you made some good points there, but we all know it's hard to break off a 40-yard run in Division I college football against anybody, whether it's an FCS school or a Group of 5, a P4. It's hard to do that, and he's done it multiple times. So obviously we have our hands full on Saturday. But besides the guys you mentioned, and you've done a really good job of painting a picture of who we should be looking forward to seeing in the game in Dowdy-Ficklin, is there somebody who's a sleeper on the roster, maybe hasn't shined as much yet, you think has a chance to start having some breakout efforts for you?
Cody Hagan is a receiver that's going to move up the depth chart now with some injuries there, and he's also in the return game. He's already scored on an end around. He had a 40-plus yard kickoff return the last game they played. Cody Hagan, jersey number 5, is like Parker Kingston, a high school 100-meter speed star from BYU. Parker Kingston people know about. He's a returner. He's a wide receiver. But Cody Hagan's kind of taken a step to join Parker for that number 2 spot behind Chase Roberts at wide receiver. Cody hasn't had a lot of looks yet. When he touches the ball, he's pretty fun to watch. And so I'd say Cody Hagan is someone that jumps out. There's a second tight end named Kean Need that could also be a factor as the season goes along. And then Bear Bachmeier's brother, Tiger. I think Tiger will be heard from in both the receiving game and the return game.
Well, I tell you what, the big uglies up front who block for Bear have to love his name and his number. And then you have a brother named Tiger. I tell you, I know offensive linemen. I know their mentality, and they're excited about having those personalities on the offense for you guys at BYU.
Yep, I like the wildlife composition of this offensive roster is kind of unique, and the O-line. Speaking of which, they do like the fact they've got bookend power conference transfer tackles. Andrew Gentry came from Michigan; he won a national title with Michigan back in 23. And then you've got Isaiah Jada, who came from Colorado, was part of the team last year. And so they've got those guys that have been through the wars, and they've been an important part of what's happened so far. And BYU gets Waylon Lapuaho back at left guard for the first time this season. He's not played yet. Was a starter last year, hasn't played the first 2 games. They get him back. That's a big addition for BYU just in time for ECU.
Sounds good.
Greg, you mentioned Bachmeyer in the punt return game. I noticed that the punt returners had done an excellent job thus far with several opportunities. The kick return aspect of things, there's only been one opportunity. And then on the kicking and punting side, I noticed your kicker, 6 out of 6 with a long of 56. That really jumped out. So if you would tell us about your kicker and punter.
Well, Will Farron, the place kicker, already holds BYU's career record for field goal percentage and PAT percentage. He's on a run of 81 consecutive PATs right now. That's 5 shy of the school record. He's made 22 consecutive field goals. That's a school record. He set it at 16 or tied it at 16. He's now gone on to make 22 in a row. The 56-yarder does tie the school record. He wants to break it. They almost gave him a look at 63 against Stanford. And they said had they had the chance to do it over again, they would have done it. They would have let the clock run down and have him kick it for the last play of the first half. They called timeout early, didn't want to leave time left, didn't give him a look. But he wants that record to himself, and he'll probably get a chance to nail that at some point. He's as reliable as they come in the kick game. His holder, Sam Vanderhaar, the Australian, is also the punter. And Sam isn't a straight rugby guy. He can kick straight on. He can rugby. He can do it different ways. Will and Sam have combined for some successful fakes over the last couple of seasons as well. They can both run it. So it's a fun special teams unit that coordinator Kelly Popinga is in charge of. And Sam Vanderhaar and Will Farron are 2 of the most reliable guys at their spots in the country. And their new long snapper came from Baylor. His name is Garrison Grimes. Garrison, who was the OC for Baylor, then went to Kansas and now at Wisconsin. His son has actually come back to BYU, where Coach Grimes was the OC before heading down to Baylor, where he was with his son. Long story short there, they get a Baylor transfer that has ties to BYU. So that special teams unit is a pretty good group.
Greg, really appreciate you spending about 20 minutes with us this evening and taking a look at this matchup between BYU and ECU. Again, 7:30 on ESPN2. And before we let you go, tell folks how they can hear your description of things if they are traveling and cannot watch, and then also how to follow you on social media.
Sure. Well, our radio broadcasts are heard on Sirius XM 143, BYU Radio. We have our own radio channel on Sirius XM 143. So that's us. The BYU Radio app is a great way to catch our signal if you're not in Utah. Those in Utah know that we're on KSL here. And then on social media, I am on X, and it's at Greg Wrubell, GregWrubell, at Greg Wrubell. And I share a lot of stats and streaks and trivia and whatnot there as well. So that's how you can get my content.
Again, really appreciate the visit. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel as well as X. We can be found at Blackbeard Alley, on Blackbeard's Alley, or on Instagram, I should say. But again, that is BYU Director of Broadcast Media and play-by-play voice, Greg Wrubell. We'll talk to you soon here on Blackbeard's Alley. And as always, go Pirates.
Painted purple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.